of 404s of the World, a spin-off series of remarkable engines where I briefly cover the history of an engine numbered 404 in 4 minutes and 4 seconds. In this episode, we'll be covering the last 2-for-1 for the season, as these two railroads rostered their own 404s and eventually ended up merging together, namely the Seaboard Air Line and the Atlantic Coast Line. Once again, there isn't too much individual info known on these particular engines, but there's just enough engines to cram almost all of their info into a 4-minute long video, as although they're both EMDs, they're both from classes that aren't covered too often in this series. So with that out of the way, let's begin. As many of you know, the 1950s brought forth the replacement of steam engines with diesels taking over the world, and more rail traffic on the East Coast shifted from passenger to freight. Two of the largest railroads in the somewhat underrated Southeast include Atlantic Coast Line and Seaboard Air Line, and they obtained a wide variety of diesel classes from EMD, one of the most prominent diesel builders at the time. Starting off with Atlantic Coast Line, they were one of several railroads to purchase the F7A, the perfected and most numerous member of the F unit series with 2,400 examples built, with the ACL purchasing a hefty 101 units as 404 was towards the end batch as it was built in October of 1951. It just so happens that this engine directly replaced another 404 on the ACL roster, namely a P2 class Pacific built by Baldwin in 1913, as the new 404 could be found practically doing the exact same task as the previous 404, namely hauling freight along the southeast with many different diesel classes. Meanwhile, the HCL's rival, the Seaboard Coast Line, purchased their 404 much later on, as the railroad needed an additional order of general-purpose engines, and since the wildly popular GP9 was no longer cataloged by EMD, they purchased the lesser-known GP18, as 404 was built in the middle of a batch of just 10 engines in August of 1960. It just so happened that this engine also filled in the spot left behind by another 404 on the railroad that was retired a few years prior, namely a 400 class 210 built by Baldwin in 1924, as the new 404 was also found performing a wide variety of mainline and local freight runs with several of its GP9 cousins, but it would be renumbered early in its career to 1060. Also, like many railroads at the time, the two railroads were no strangers to the merger mania of the 60s, as the two rivals merged to form the Seaboard Coast Line in 1967. But oddly, when acquired by the Seaboard Coast Line, there was a slight renumbering among the F7As, as ACL 404 was renumbered to SCL 300, and the identical ACL 400 was renumbered to SCL 404. Although, most railroads preferred open walkways of the Jeeps instead of the cowbody design of the F units due to easier maintenance, as the SCL F7s didn't see as much service as their open walkway counterparts, as both of the F7A 404s are assumed scrapped. Meanwhile, the open walkway GP18 had a much more interesting story, as it retained its number from Seaboard Air Line, as it was initially given SCL lettering and was later repainted into the SCL livery. The engine would live through another era of mergers as Seaboard Coast Line was absorbed into the Seaboard system and was given SPD lettering, but it was not repainted as it was seen as surplus and wasn't used as often. Several smaller railroads saw the potential in the slightly younger open walkway EMD engine, as it was purchased by the Indiana and Ohio Railway in the mid-80s, where it would be the railroad's primary power and would also have its short hood lowered. It was then sold to Biofuel Energy as their plant switcher in Wood River, Nebraska, and was acquired again by Midwest Locomotive Works as their 6225, as it's currently the grain elevator engine for Missouri Farmers Association in Higginsville, Missouri, as yet another example of EMD's versatility. Thank you again for watching. Credit for all the photos used go to their respective photographers. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Have a good day.